Hello and welcome to the first episode of Filling the Gap, your one-stop shop for Pacers coverage during the Gap year. My name is Andrew Schreiner. I will be your host this season as we together try and make the most of what is admittedly a gap year with Tyrese Halliburton out for the Pacers. But there still is a lot to play for, and I am here to cover it for you. Well, today is episode 1. It's also October 1st. And we in Indianapolis know that means it is the start of basketball season. The Pacers begin in just 3 short weeks. They have their first preseason game next week. They started training camp. They've had media day. They are back. So to start, I wanted to talk about 3 things that stood out to me from the media day coverage. First, we have to talk about number 0, Tyrese Halliburton. He wore the uniform. We saw him in uniform for what we know will be the only time this season. And it was a little bittersweet. It was nice to see him back. He was smiling, joking around. But it was sad knowing that that is the only time we'll see him in uniform this year, given his Achilles injury in Game 7 of the NBA Finals. Now, I just wanted to mention one thing from his press conference. He was asked whether he's gone back and rewatched any of the playoff run, any of the finals games, any of the shots he made. And he got a little emotional. You could tell that he is still really dealing with that loss. And I mean the loss of this season, even more so than that an individual loss in Game 7. He said he hasn't gone back. He just can't do it. He knows he'll cherish those memories, as will we all, but unfortunately for him, he can't enjoy them right now. I know I have been watching highlights, replays of some of those shots almost nonstop since even April when the run started, and I hope you've been able to as well, but the pain is there. Right after the injury, I was obviously disappointed, but I was so proud of the team and so excited about the run. And I think it's gotten worse with time. The disappointment's only grown. But we are on to next season. And so, speaking of this next season, one of the second thing that stood out to me was about Pascal Siakam. He was asked about being the number 1 option this year, whether he was excited about it, looking forward to it. And he dismissed the notion that he was the number 1 option. He talked about that they're a team, that it's a team game. And, we know it's true. Pascal is going to be the number 1 option. He's our all-star this season, last season as well. But I think his answer was a great sign for the continued team culture. That's what made this team last year and the year before so lovable. Their selflessness, they played as a unit. And a lot of that was, in part, at least, maybe even in majority, due to Tyrese Halliburton's play style, the way that he plays and how that allows others to play. But that is a culture element as well, created by management, created by the coaching staff, and that the players have to buy into. And so to see Pascal, who could easily say, this is a good opportunity for me to be an all-star, maybe even make an all-NBA team this year. No, he was already talking about his teammates playing as a team. I think that's a great sign for team culture. Then the third thing that stood out was Aaron Nesmith. He was asked about the expectations for the year and what they think, the players think they can do this year versus what maybe expectations are around the NBA. And he referred to the fact that they are used to being overlooked, which is true of this team, and that they're ready to prove people wrong again. I think they can. I think they will be better than people expect, because they still have a really talented collection of players, even though they're missing their leader, their superstar, Tyrese Halliburton. Still a lot of talent on this team. Speaking of that, training camp began this week. Their roster was released officially. They have 21 players on the training camp roster. That's the maximum number allowed. And I wanted to take just a moment to go through the roster and break them down into kind of the 4 categories I see. So of those 21, 15 can make the team on standard contracts, And then 3 additional players can be on 2 ways. And so most of those are settled, but there are still a few things to watch for as training camp unfolds. So I've broken them down. I think 13 of those 21 will be on the team on standard contracts. And those are in alphabetical order here: Johnny Furphy, Tyrese Halliburton, who we know won't play all season, but he's still on the roster, Jay Huff, Isaiah Jackson, Cam Jones, Ben Shepherd, Pascal Siakam, Benedict Mathurin, TJ McConnell, Andrew Nembhard, Aaron Nesmith, Obi Toppin, and Jarris Walker. Now, 11 of those 13 were on the team last year. That's a huge amount of continuity, plus 2 of the 3 two-way players we'll talk about in a minute. These are the players you know, you love, that you hope take a step up this season in Tyrese's absence. The 2 newcomers, Jay Huff and Cam Jones, have a lot of potential. People are excited to see how they'll fit in. Now, the 3 two-way contract players are Ray J. Dennis and Quentin Jackson, who were on the team last year and showed some really good stuff in limited moments. And then Taylen Peter, who's an exciting rookie, was thought to be a reach by many, but he showed some real fit in the Pacers system in the Summer League. And so it's exciting to see what he might be. And then there are 3, so that leaves 2 open spots, 2 standard contracts. 3 players who I think are hoping to prove themselves in camp and earn their final spot. Tony Bradley and James Wiseman are 2 centers fighting for what is probably 1 spot. Now, Tony Bradley, of course, had a meaningful role, meaningful minutes, meaningful contribution in the playoff run, especially against the Knicks and the Thunder. But James Wiseman is a really talented player. There's a lot of high hope. He shows lots of potential, even though he's heading into what I believe is his 7th season. He's still, people are hoping he'll live up to the promise he showed as a top draft pick years ago. Now, Tony Bradley, on the official roster published by the Pacers, did have his name misspelled. So I think that means, if I'm reading into it too much probably, but that might mean James Wiseman has the inside track. And I think most would agree that he does. But Tony Bradley played a meaningful role. He played good basketball in the biggest moments of the season for the Pacers. So I also wouldn't be shocked if they keep 4 centers. Isaiah Jackson and James Wiseman are both coming off of Achilles injuries. They'll need rest. You might worry that they aren't up for the complete wear and tear of a season. They almost certainly won't play back-to-backs. So it's possible that both of them will get a roster spot and will play with 4 centers throughout the season, at least on the roster. They won't all be active for each game. The 3rd player hoping to prove themselves in camp is DeLon Wright. You may remember the name. He was a bench player for the Knicks last season. He's on a training camp contract, so he doesn't have any guaranteed money. But I can see him sneaking in as the 3rd point guard, especially if they only go with 1 center. They have 1 more roster spot left. They may want to keep a veteran point guard, especially if they feel like Cam Jones isn't up to being their 3rd point guard, if they want a veteran presence there. The remaining 2 spots on the training camp roster are occupied by 2 players who are, in my category, I call it just here for camp. Gabe McLaughlin and Jalen Slawson. They are players we don't know a lot about. I don't think the Pacers have a lot of hope for playing meaningful minutes for them this season. But they need 21 players to be there for camp and compete. I'm sure they're hoping to make a good impression. Now, I just wanted to finish up with the final minute. This is our first episode. Let you know kind of what this show is going to be about, what my idea is here. I'm hoping to just provide those short, regular updates for fans who may not invest as much time into watching the games and following the team during this gap year, that phrase, that's that buzzword that's been thrown around a lot this offseason, given Tyrese's injury. And so if that's you, or if you are just a basketball junkie and want as much Pacers coverage as you can, please like, subscribe, share this podcast with others like you. And I'll be back later in the week with a show summarizing key off-season moves and then the Pacers' outlook for the year ahead before preseason games start next week. It's hard to believe we have the shortest possible off-season given that we lost on the final day of the year this past season. And so we are already back just a few months later. The Pacers are back and filling the gap is here. Thank you for watching.